Witness testimony. Constable Beate's report. Report. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top of the floor of the Garrett house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Er schläft doch die ganze Zeit. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement window. Was heißt denn top-hinged? Top-hinged. Hinged. Drehbar, nach oben drehbares. Ah, okay. Und Casement Window ist Flügelfenster, Fensterflügel, okay. Nach oben konnte man das drehen. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. Warte mal. Der Police Report. Case File. Location pavement of Briarwood, olive green, female, stout build, early 20s. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. The victim remains unconscious from the single stab wound from the large knife. No other signs of injury were observed. Okay. Mich interessiert jetzt nochmal, wie alt Beate, sie ist 21 und er ist 23, okay. Olive Green wissen wir nicht, wie alt die ist, okay. Alles klar. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrett Depp's room. Alright, I'll try. So the windows open in order to allow air to circulate into the inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see? Okay. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents its opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. Das bringt uns ja sehr weiter und meine Kamera war auf einmal weg. Seit wann? Keine Ahnung. Ich bin jetzt auf jeden Fall wieder da. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be! Oh, Mann. Wieder auf Anfang. Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh god. Oh good. Another desperate situation. Cross-examination. Constable Beate's report. Meine ich natürlich. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer? is this. It has the noble founding principles of the Force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his work. While rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sir. Oh Wally, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Wally. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrider? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so, could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my abilities, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrider's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. Okay. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you, I'll try. Constable Beate's warrant card has been entered into the court record. A small folding wallet that identifies London bobbies and contains the rules of conduct to which they must adhere. Dann gucken wir uns das mal gleich an. Item 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within its allotted beat. Item 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around the speed every day for the furtherance of community relations. Item number 1. Achso. Principles of Policing und Metropolitan Police Regulations. Item 1. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Item number 2. When a crime is discovered on his beat, the policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Okay. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrider house are top-hinged casements.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully. Is that correct? Yes, sir. They are just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see? So they are restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Oh. Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrider's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Excuse me?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Miss Beate? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Wally Speed. It was so close, you see? Also es ist nicht in seinem Revier passiert. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that's sweet, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rowley Speed and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Dann haben wir da gleich einen Einspruch zu holen. Constable Beate. Oh. Yeah, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Geraldip household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see? Sir? That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Geraldip household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Geraldip's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side is of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby after all. Extraordinary people, our Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rowley for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. Aber, also, habe ich das jetzt richtig verstanden? Also, die linke Seite von dem Bürgersteig gehört zu seinem Revier, aber alles, was rechts davon ist, wo der Mord passiert ist, war nicht mehr in seinem Revier, oder was? Okay. The house on my beat, you see? Und between Rowley's beat and the next one. Briar Road is the Grenze, okay. That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I take care of it immediately. The case file's information has been updated. In the court records, the pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beate's beat, the border of which runs down in the middle of Briar Road. And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. You see, the windows on the top floor of the Geraldip house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark. Oh, but Rowley and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. Zoe? The star that would guide us to... okay, Animal Crossing hat Update-Daten runtergeladen. Good to know. The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming bolt had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rowley be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they are telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we went straight over to help her. Okay. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rowley was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment now. Nothing strange to report on that front. Wir pressen erstmal hier noch.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? That's right, yes. If it had been on Rowley's beat, I wouldn't have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rowley told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost in the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rowley. Oh, please. So, I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my rollie was at the scene at the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment now, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the garret of household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from his photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about the statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in the bag and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Okay. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You are doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really... I mean, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you? Yes, Miss Beate. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is a sage one. That was a very loud mutter. Warte, was hat er gesagt? The path... Okay, der Pfad des wenigsten Widerstandes, okay. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my rollie won't. Duly noted, Miss Beate. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Okay. I didn't take my eyes off the... Okay. Sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
Hold it!
Miss Beate, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw it. I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved bag, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rody. He gets ever so cross. Okay, was hat er zu sagen?
Excuse me!
Constable Beate, is there a problem? Eh? Ah? Ah, no sir, no problem sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind perhaps? Oh, well, in a way sir, yes sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening, so... You mean Miss Beate lost her way on the night of the incident? Okay. Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box on the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes. But my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Wally, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet. Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding day. Wally's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Ah! Ah, oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beate looked very obviously troubled during the exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beate about the bouquet. Miss Beate, this bouquet you just mentioned, ist das ein Blumen? Eine Blumensammlung ist das, oder? Also so ein Bouquet. Blumenstrauß, ja, okay. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was, I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. You dropped your bouquet, okay?
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we went over and we saw it was a woman with a knife in her bag. I was so shocked. I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see? That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Miss Beate, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Okay. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there. I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar's Road to the opposite. Okay. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me, with that change from the gutter you spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh! Oh, yes! Yes, that's it! That's the bouquet Rolly bought for me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord von Sieg, where did you come by this flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garrett's household. In front of the Garrett's house. Das heißt, als wiedergekommen war, wurde der Körper auf die andere Seite bewegt. Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. The anniversary bouquet has been entered into the court record. A present for Patricia Beate from my husband Rolly. The shock of seeing the victim caused Mrs. Beate to drop the rose where she stood. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief, rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Miss Beate. Okay. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment. No, nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you make of all this? Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book had no business being at the scene of the crime. It made me sure that Mrs. Garrideb was hiding something from us. But it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb, believe me. A London Bobby is good for his world. Möchte nochmal untersuchen vielleicht. It's very stylish paper the flower's wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. Ah, I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrap the stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Susato-san, you do love the cakes. Okay. Eat your hamburgers. One card. You see, the windows on the top floor of the Garrideb house are top-tinted casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my thrusty rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. What happened was, I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment now. I saw nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Was sagt die Rose nochmal?
Hold it!
Nothing to report. That's correct. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. And swear to that in Yard's honor, sir. Really, that seems a little strange. Schau ich nochmal hier. Hier ist aber keine Rose zu sehen. Okay. Strange. This burns, bla bla. Das hatten wir ja alles schon. Ich werde einfach mal aufs letzte Statement die Rose präsentieren. Weil das ist ja schon strange irgendwie. Is that so? Das bla. Ja. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, bla bla bla. Okay. This time it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. Was eine lange, Dings, ne? Cross-Examination. Kreuzverhör. So, ich speichere mal, sicherheitshalber. So. Present.
Objection!
Okay, das war das Richtige. Perfekt. You claimed, Constable Beate, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What? What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beate, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with a policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager? Das ist meager. Gering, mager, kümmerlich. Achso.
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beate not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beate swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rowley didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way round. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Miss Beate's bouquet, there's Mr. Garridip's book. Mr. Garridip's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife. Would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Miss Beate's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garridip's house. There's no logical explanation for those things. Unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rowley's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Wittering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good. Miss Garridip's come round. You might call it nitpicking, Miss Garridip. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering. You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there's someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Ich würde sagen Miss Garridip, ne? Weil sie das Messer geworfen hat.
Take that!
No. There's only one person who could have done this. Do you intend to share your internal monologue, Counsel? Sorry, my lord. I was just taking a moment to get things straight in my head. And for that moment of wasted court's time, you will pay the price, okay? Huh? New are things getting more strict around here. It's right, Mr. Naruhodo. There is only one person who had the opportunity to tamper with the people. Der Officer dann, oder was? Der Officer, oder was? Also, hier Rowley.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Okay. Constable Rowley Beate, it was you!